It is a Monday edition on the road of inside coverage here on Yahoo. Thanks for watching, everybody. My name is Andrew Siciliano. It's the how and the why of any and everything you need to know from the National Football League as we look back on a full Sunday where, once again, everything you thought you knew, you didn't know after Week 4. You can watch us on the new Yahoo Sports Network. It is available on all your fast channels on your smart TVs. It's free advertising supported television. You can watch it 24/7 on yahoosports.tv, on your browser, on your phone, on YouTube. It's in podcast form. We thank you for watching for the how and the why every Monday through Thursday. Joining me today, and I've made this promise now. I promise Jori Epstein and I promise Frank Schwab that if we disagree today, there will be no ties, Jori. I will have to declare, even though it's not my job, I'm not Tony Reali, although somebody in a bar once argued with me in Cleveland many years ago that I was Tony Reali and didn't believe me when I said that I wasn't. But I'm not like picking a winner, but I promise you, Jori, no ties.
I thought that was a hilarious outcome from Sunday Night Football. I feel like it's very fitting that we just had that Thursday show where I kept being like, and I don't even care who wins. I just care about this specific storyline, to which poor Ben Fox was like, everything about the betting industry is who wins. And I'm like, right, I said this on the wrong show. But then alas, one game, I should say, did not have a winner. So I was very amused. I always also say that it's like a fantasy team for me, of the players whose stories I'm writing either over the course of my career or a story that I'm working on that hasn't yet come. And I needed one player on each of the teams to do well for my reporting purposes. They both played well, so I was in great shape. Frank, what did you think of this?
I hate it. I hate ties. I hate the overtime system. We have made these overtime rules because there was one game years ago where Josh Allen did not get a chance to touch the ball in overtime, so we decided to screw up everything about overtime. I will say, I have said, I will continue to say, it is not too much to ask an NFL defense to hold the other team out of the end zone. If you can't do that, well, then your quarterback doesn't deserve to touch the ball. I think this is all stupid, and we're going to see a lot of ties going forward. But that's just my rant on a Monday, I guess.
You know, it's funny. It's not funny. So, long travel weekend. I won't bore people, but went from LA to Detroit. Detroit back on the bus with the Browns to Cleveland because that is such a short trip and they don't fly. It's a 20-minute flight. That's one of those bus trips. So, a 3-hour bus back and then grab some. Long story short, I was exhausted, as most every football fan is on Sunday night. I fell asleep at the end of regulation. I woke up to find out that it was a tie.
I stayed up, but 15 straight hours of football on Sunday was a treat. I'll tell you,
it's a first world problem. I could go on some rant about Jordan Love's clock management skills. I watched the highlights. I saw all the analysis, but I was not screaming at my TV. I was snoring at my TV by that point. But hey, both teams played hard, my man. Both teams played hard, as somebody once said. Rasheed Wallace, I believe. All right, let's get to the Ravens, who did not tie. The Ravens actually went into Kansas City, and they lost. They lost badly. They had an early lead. It was a 7-0 lead out of the gate with the Justice Hill touchdown, or 7-3, whatever it was. And then all of a sudden, it was 34-20. And it's not just the fact that they're scoring points, although only 20 here, and it was Lamar Jackson's second worst loss as a starter in terms of point differential. And I said last week, I think they're becoming the Bengals of 2025, meaning they're going to score 30 and lose because the defense is just bad. The concern now, and it's a legitimate concern with the Texans and the Rams next up on the schedule before their bye, is that they're just too injured and too broken. And by the time everybody gets healthy, it may be too late. The list, especially on defense, is just ridiculous. And as I go through this list, guys, Lamar Jackson has a hammy, and John Harbaugh insisted if he was healthy enough to go back in, he would have gone back in because there was speculation. Well, maybe they're just taking him out because it's a blowout. I'm taking Lamar out of this equation here. I'm going to list the guys injured on defense and their cap hit because you know this and we know this. These aren't just nobodies that are hurt. Roquan Smith, cap hit $15 million. Nnamdi Madubuike, who's done for the year with a neck injury, $16 million. Marlon Humphrey, $12 million. Kyle Van Noy, $6.5 million. Nate Wiggins, his cap number is small because he's a second-year guy, but he's a first-round pick. He's a vital player in that secondary, especially with Jair Alexander still out and not entirely healthy, and they're paying him good money. Patrick Ricard, Broderick Washington, Travis Jones, Ronnie Stanley, his cap number is nearly $14 million. And that's, again, taking Lamar Jackson out of it, Frank, for a 1-3 team. Can they dig themselves out of this? Because that's a list that nobody has elsewhere in the NFL.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the injuries, I would say I'm not really shaken on the Ravens, who I picked to win a Super Bowl before the season. Because, look, they've been favored in every game. That shows the respect they have in that market, at least. They've just lost tough games. The Lions are very, very good. The Chiefs played well yesterday. The Bills came back. A crazy couple. So I'd say, look, let's slow down. Yes, they're 1-3. That's not ideal, but I don't trust the Steelers. They're still going to win the division, blah, blah, blah. But when you add in the injuries, like, what do you do? Like, I don't know. Last year, they were terrible on defense for the first, let's say, 6 weeks of the season. They made some adjustments. Zach Orr made some adjustments. Moved Kyle Hamilton around. They were one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL after that. And but that was with a full deck of cards. Like, you don't have all these guys at your disposal anymore. So you're not only trying to fix what's schematically wrong with your defense, you're trying to plug in guys, new guys. Like, hey, let's figure this out on the fly. You're losing guys like Roquan Smith. Like that's not easy. You lose half your secondary. Like, I don't know. I don't want to pour dirt on the Ravens yet because I'm not totally convinced that the Steelers are some 12-win team you can't catch. The Ravens still do have what I consider the greatest player in the NFL on their roster. I have a ton of respect for John Harbaugh, but at some point you just get so far behind that you can't catch up in the race. And I do worry that's where the Ravens are headed. This is a bad place for them to be, not really because they're 1-3, but because you're 1-3 with all these injuries, trying to figure out your issues. That it's just tough.
I don't think the Steelers are a 12-win team, but I'm not sure that the AFC North winner is going to need to be a 12-win team with the way that things are heading.
Right.
First with Joe Burrow's injury and now with what's going on with the Ravens. I think my challenge when I think about them is that if you are the 49ers and you're starting 3-0, you have a little flexibility on, or even 2-0 initially, of if you want to bring Brock Purdy back because you've got the cushion of the win. But with Lamar Jackson in his current state, this is a team that started 1-3. As we mentioned on a last week's show, they did that 10 years ago. They did that 20 years ago. Neither time they made the playoffs, and it doesn't happen very often, that 1-3 start. And so when you have this, and then you have Lamar Jackson not be all good and not be ready to go, to me, it's like there's a pressure to rush him back because of what the record looks like, even if you want to say they played against good teams, and I did. But if you rush him back too quickly, he's not going to be able to do it. This is a team that needs Lamar Jackson to carry them on offense and defense in a lot of ways. And I don't know that Lamar Jackson's health is going to give him that ability, even if we know that his high-end talent, when he is healthy, allows for that.
So here's my issue with the defense here. The injuries, obviously, it's a long list. We ran them all down. But even when healthier defensively, like going back weeks 1 and 2, they weren't entirely healthy. Like Jair Alexander was a big one, but they made do. They're still giving up buckets of points. So they're doing that, and they're scoring and losing. They've scored 131 points in 4 games. That is the second most in the history of the league through 4 games to lead to a losing record. Only the 2022 Lions have scored that many points in the first 4 games. That's why I said they're the Bengals and ended up with a losing record. I'm with you, though. I don't think the Steelers are going to run away with it, but the Steelers, they now get a bye. So they come back from their bye in week 6. They get the Browns, right? And the Browns obviously will be coming off their game in London against the Vikings. Who knows how that goes? But they're going to be well rested. So hypothetically, you want to put the Steelers at 4-1. I was joking yesterday they could clinch this division by November.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that early, but I mean, you look and you're like I said, I don't think the Steelers win 12 games. And Jori, you're right. Like the AFC North champ might have 9 because how many do we give the Ravens? They're like, we alluded to it. Their schedule is still tough, even though they've played 3 of their 4 games have been very, very difficult. They still have a lot of tough games coming up. There's no break for the Ravens. So can the Ravens really even get to 500 this year? Are they the 49ers of this year, where it just becomes too much and all these injuries piling up? Yeah, at some point, you just say, like, this does kind of look like the Steelers division at this moment. And I don't really trust them, but I definitely don't trust the Ravens right now either, particularly with their injuries.
Right. I think that this is a division that will not be decided in early November, but it will be because none of the teams are having complete success. And I do think that the Steelers, at least against the Vikings this week, seem to be trending in the right direction. And we're not saying that about any of the other teams in the AFC North. And so I think when you see that trending, and I think we have to give them credit for what they did against a very good Vikings defense, I do think that there is something to be said for their winning the division. And we knew Mike Tomlin was going to find a way somehow, right? At least to get out, get in the win column.
Yeah, he was going to win in Dublin. I don't come at me, people, when I say there's no way the Steelers would lose in Dublin. I'm not suggesting there's a script. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, but they were going to win the game in London. Period. Full stop. Mike Tomlin is not going to lose to Carson Wentz in London. And the November thing was tongue in cheek. I don't think they're really going to clinch the division in November, but Aaron Rodgers is going to dink and dunk his way to a winning record. And right now they are clearly, even though I don't think their defense is much right now, their defense did enough yesterday, clearly, and got the late interception. When Wentz had a shot, they made a run there. Jordan Addison got tracked down by Peyton Wilson, a linebacker. I'm sure he's going to get laughed about that in film, but he's a very fast linebacker. I'm not entirely sold on the Steelers, but they are what they are, and right now the division is what it is. Jori, real quick, thoughts on the Chiefs? Like, Xavier Worthy came back. All of a sudden, that's the magic elixir. I realize that's overly simplified here, but the Chiefs actually looked like the Chiefs, and Mahomes had a 4-touchdown day, which was his 18th in his career, but his first in 2 years.
Right. I think that we should feel better about the Chiefs. And this is not just about, they were able to get a win over the Giants and a win over a Baltimore Ravens team that's extremely injured and struggling on defense. I think, as we've talked about, this was always a Chiefs team that, one, was going to get reinforcements both from injury and eventually from suspension, and two, was a Chiefs team that, like the Patriots a decade ago or so, was going to use the beginning of the season to figure out what they wanted to be, what they wanted their identity to be, what were their strengths as a team. So I think that this is a great Chiefs defense, and I think this offense always had enough pieces. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is just going to mail it in. So yeah, I think we should feel much better about the Chiefs, and I would say that I would probably feel better about them winning the AFC West this week than I did the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, think of where we were on Sunday morning. I mean, it looked like if the Ravens go in to beat the Chiefs, they're 1-3. The Chargers take care of business against the Giants. They're 4-0. All of a sudden, you're 3 games back. Well, now you're a game back of the Chargers because they lost to a Giants game in a flat spot in their schedule. The Chiefs look much better. And I think the funny thing is, Patrick Mahomes is like, just give me one weapon. Just give me one. You get Xavier Worthy back? Sure, I'm good. I'll look like the Patrick Mahomes of old. It was like a totally different team, totally different offense with just basically one guy being added back to the lineup. Ravens defense being bad had a lot to do with that. But you start to think about, okay, week 7, Rashee Rice is back. He's maybe a top 15 receiver in this league. Add him, Worthy. Patrick Mahomes might have a huge second half. If I'm the Chargers, I feel like, like here they come again. They're gonna be knocking on the door pretty soon. Can't we just slay the villain in the horror movie here? Because all of a sudden the Chiefs are very much alive. Whereas when we woke up on Sunday morning, it looked like they might be in a huge hole going into week 5. They're just game back. No big deal.
Yeah, it's interesting too, or maybe not interesting. Let's just phrase it this way: the game really wasn't the game of the second half. So I'm coming back from Cleveland. We're on the bus coming back. From Detroit to Cleveland, and that game was on the TV, on the bus. Yet you turned it off. We're looking for another game. Like, turn on San Francisco, Jacksonville, or turn on the Bears and the Raiders, or turn on whatever the other game was. I'm drawing a blank, but either way, my point is that game was one of those games in May that you circle on the calendar. Actually, you knew it before May. You knew the two teams were going to play each other at Arrowhead. Right. You circle it on the calendar. It wasn't a game late in the third quarter, even midway through the third quarter. I don't think anybody could have seen that coming. It's a battle of 1 and 3 teams, and someone's got 1 and 2 teams, rather. Someone's got to come out of there 1 and 3. It's the Ravens, and it wasn't a game in the fourth quarter, which was not as expected. What was a game of the fourth quarter, somewhat, I don't know, a game enough. Yes, it was the Giants' victory at MetLife Stadium over the previously undefeated LA Chargers. Jori was there for the big Jaxson Dart coming out party. He had the swag. He did the TikTok dance. He got in the end zone. Everybody loved him. The Giants are the first 0-3 team to beat a 3-0 team since the Chiefs beat the Broncos in week 4 of 2008. Jori, it had been 17 years since a rookie quarterback did what Jaxson Dart did yesterday. And it seemed like the turning of the page to a young, fun, energetic, swag-worthy, different era in Giants football, which I know I am exaggerating because it's only one game, but that one game seemed amazingly significant.
Well, it's funny. You say 17 years. It depends how you want to cut the cake here, because there were also stats of rookie quarterbacks playing their first game against an undefeated team in week 4 or later hadn't beat that team since 1979, Phil Simms. So
there you go.
When you
Even
get all
better.
of the different factors here, I mean, we could go back so long before I was born. So
I saw that in the article.
Both of you were
that's
born?
even better. That's the better note.
Was that before both of you were born? 1979.
No comment.
I'm just exposing you guys.
No comment.
1979. Okay. Moving along. Moving
you
on.
know what? I love the Smashing Pumpkins version of 1979. We'll just go there. How about that?
Let's go that. Anyway, okay. I was in the house for Jaxson Dart's debut as a starter for the Giants, and I wouldn't say I was so convinced the Giants couldn't win, but I was so convinced by the unlikelihood of it that I literally wrote a story last week where I asked coaches and execs around the league, what do you want to see from Jaxson Dart if he can't get the win to show a level of success? Like, I didn't think that a win should be the only metric by which the Giants were judging success. And it's not that I didn't think that should be a factor, and clearly he did it. I just thought that's a little bit of a tall task to ask this rookie. And to be clear, the New York Giants defense was leading the way in this win. They got not only a ton of pressure on Justin Herbert, who was down 3 starting offensive linemen, but on top of that, they got 2 interceptions, both of which they returned to the 3-yard line. And it is a heck of a lot easier to get in the end zone from 3 yards than 40, 60, 70. Okay, maybe one of the times the Giants didn't get in, but they could. To me, what I loved most about Jaxson Dart was not just the confidence that people talked about or his willingness to use his legs, which quite frankly, some Giants teammates told me that they were scared when he was doing that because it's not sustainable. What I loved most is actually the last pass of the game that he made. So it's 3rd and 5, 2:38 to go. And on 3rd down, not only did Brian Daboll trust Jaxson Dart and trust him to attempt a pass, but he completes his 10-yard pass to Theo Johnson kind of under the middle. And they end up telling us afterwards that Jaxson Dart was watching film of the Chargers defense and noticed that one of the ways they played their zones, they had a bit of a soft spot in the middle. And so he told tight end Theo Johnson, before the game, he was like, look, if we see this, I want you to not finish the route as the play calls for it, but instead just sit on it halfway through. So Brian Daboll's been running this play for legitimately 10 years where the route continues on. Jaxson Dart not only tells his teammate, but also tells head coach Brian Daboll, hey, I told him this. Then the situation arises, last pass of the game, really the first down they needed to basically assure, although not fully, assure that they would win over the Chargers, and that was what won. And I think that is why I feel encouraged about what Jaxson Dart could show, because yes, he was mobile, yes, he was confident, yes, he figured out how to keep things afloat despite losing Malik Nabers to a torn ACL, which obviously was a huge loss, but to me, it's that ability to say, hey, I see where we can get an edge here, and I am willing to organize everyone around me, teammates and coaches alike, to find that edge.
Can I say it? Am I allowed to say it? The New York Giants should have started Jaxson Dart week 1, like I was saying. Like that was like a different team on because I just think that he added so much juice. Like his stats weren't otherworldly. He
completed 13 passes.
Right. He didn't redefine quarterbacking. He didn't redefine quarterbacking in any way. But the Giants just seemed to play at a different tempo with a different confidence. Like everybody knows. Like you go out there with Russell Wilson at this point in his career, that's like, okay, well, this is going to be a slog a little bit. It just looked completely different with Jaxson Dart. I thought the entire team rallied around him. I think they're going to continue to play well around him. Now the Malik Nabers injury does complicate things. It stinks. Like it just stinks. The emotions of Giants fans yesterday, getting the excitement for Jaxson Dart coming out, making plays right away. Like he came out with the confidence that a rookie usually doesn't have. Then losing Malik Nabers, it was obvious right away that what happened with him, and now he's done for the season. But then also getting the win over the Chargers, just the roller coaster there. But this was the right move to go to Jaxson Dart, and I think it's going to pay off. I think he's going to get some good reps this season, even though I don't think the Giants are going to be a playoff contender or anything, but we're going to get to the end of the year, and I truly think the Giants are going to say, this is our guy. Like, we should be excited building around him going forward. Hopefully Malik Nabers comes back, and he suffered the injury early enough in the season that his 2026 isn't affected. I really like this for the Giants. Again, they might not be a great team the rest of the year, but they're going to be fun to watch, and it really honestly hasn't been the case in a while.
I disagree, Frank. I think that, yes, Jaxson Dart played great. And I agree that by next week he should have been starting. The Giants surprised me a little bit in putting him in this week. And really the best thing he did, not the best thing, but one of the best things he did was just not turn the ball over or make mistakes, because that was what at the last game that Russell Wilson started was an issue. But Russell Wilson threw for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying he should have kept the job. I'm not saying he was the energy. Okay, Jordan Love didn't do that. I mean, like, let's be a little bit realistic here. I think that you have to realize, if you're Brian Daboll and you're Joe Schoen and your jobs are on the line, you need to have the break glass in case of emergency option. If you play Jaxson Dart right away and it doesn't go well, you might be ruining, or at least long-term hampering, a la Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, etc., his career. And on top of that, you're not keeping your job. And so I think that starting him eventually was the move, but starting him week 1, I don't believe would have gotten them the success that they had yesterday.
Can we talk about, and as we see here, Pat Leonard's tweet from the Daily News about the jersey sales. He's got something. The kids love him, and he's got, his glasses and the chain and all that on the podium. The TikTok dance. Hey, where'd you do that? Where'd you find that end zone celebration? I just saw it on TikTok. That's it. Like the Jameis Eaton W's t-shirts that people were posting last night as well with Jaxson Dart. I love it, and I also think it's going to. It's only one game, like I said. I mean, look at that. It's amazing.
It's awesome. Awesome.
It's
so good.
Going to.
Jameis tweeting
if
that
the
was
success
fantastic.
Continues, yes. It's going to have people looking back on the draft in April going, why were people so skeptical of Jaxson Dart? The Giants made the move to get back into the bottom of the first round to get him. There are other teams that need a quarterback that weren't necessarily sold on him, but Brian Daboll saw something. Look, he was highly rated. It's not like this guy was going to be a 5th-round pick and they just shocked the world and took him in the first. But Brian Daboll loved him, and I don't know that we have the visual, but you saw them walking off the field there, Jori, yesterday. It looked like a father after his son got married, or a mother after his daughter got married. They're like face to face, and I turned to somebody next to me. I'm like, it looks like they're going to make out. I kid, they weren't going to do that, but it was like face to face, nose to nose. You don't see that kind of emotion. You don't see Brian Daboll just heaping praise on players on the podium like he did. I mean, this is a different Brian Daboll, seemingly, that Jaxson Dart is bringing out of him.
I think there's something to be said for when a coach and a quarterback are aligned correctly. And we'll get to other coaches and quarterbacks in the show who should be doing better than they are because the coach was the one who picked the quarterback. Brian Daboll did not pick Daniel Jones. He inherited Daniel Jones. And I think temperamentally, Jaxson Dart is just a much better fit for him. That's not a knock on Daniel Jones. I'm thrilled for him that he's having the success in Indianapolis with the Colts so far that he's having, but I don't think that they were a great complement to each other in terms of the energy, and Jaxson Dart is that guy for Brian Daboll. Yes, there's definitely some funny things as we see on the screen right now if we're watching the video part of the show, where it's literally forehead to forehead, and some of the Giants writers who were describing that in their tweets were deservedly getting roasted for the way that they described it, and it sounded like it had gotten out of hand. But what I'll say is that this isn't actually just on the Brian Daboll front, it's interesting because Jaxson Dart went on and on about Brian Daboll after, and this is a guy that believed in me from day one. We have a special relationship, et cetera, et cetera. So Jaxson Dart's success, like the same way that if it didn't work out, that was going to be tied to Daboll and Schoen, his success is absolutely going to keep them in the jobs if this continues, even to some degree, I would think, because he is saying, Brian Daboll is my guy. And when your quarterback is your hope and he says that, that means something. Jaxson Dart also has won over a lot of the locker room that way. I mean, when I got into the locker room after the game yesterday at MetLife, he's with the offensive lineman at the beginning, talking to John Michael Schmitz Jr. and like that pod. And then he and Russell Wilson have this extended conversation before Russell heads off to the shower. And I'm like, not every time that a guy just loses his job to the rookie is he going to have that conversation. Then he gets ready to like take off basically his his padding, his shoulder pads, and he's like kind of struggling to get it off. It's taking him a minute, and Jameis Winston, and takes it off for him and then has a conversation. I'm telling you, Jaxson Dart is standing there like hands behind his back listening as if he's listening to a teacher or coach or mentor. And Jameis is on one hand being like, celebrate tomorrow, tonight, this, that, etc. And then also reminding him where there is to get better and how he needed to use his legs and how he did that. I mean, this is a guy who, Cam Scatabo, I should add, the rookie running back coming in with him who also had a fantastic day. I mean, I think that the same way I watched Dak and Zeke in 2016 kind of take off and have several years of sustained success together because of the way they were able to understand what the other wanted, I think you might see a version of that from Jaxson Dart and Cam Scatabo.
Yeah, they're a really fun combo. Really fun.
Yeah, they are. And yeah, the little play fake and a little flip. I mean, don't give Andy Reid any more designs for shovel passes in the red zone. Don't do that, Brian Daboll. This one worked. I was going to say, coming up, and this just in, breaking news, we're heavy in our first segment of the show because Andrew's not good at reading a clock. Coming up, a deeper dive on the Steelers, and might there be a quarterback change in Cleveland sooner rather than later. Frank, Jori, hi, I'm Andrew. This is Inside Coverage. Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Thanks for being here on the Monday edition of the show, the How and the Why in the NFL. Everything you need to know every Monday through Thursday. My name is Andrew. Jori Epstein here. Frank Schwab here as well as we look back to the Sunday in Week 4. A Sunday that saw a 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time kick in Dublin, the very first game in Dublin. Undoubtedly a success, even with some off-the-field shenanigans on Saturday evening with one Skylar Thompson. I have no doubt that a game is going to be back in Dublin sometime soon. Roger Goodell said on NFL Network before the game what he had said in a public appearance earlier in the week in Ireland, that the league is looking at a 16-game international schedule, and that will come sooner rather than later. So get used to 9:30 in the morning football. Guys, I was talking before about how I'm not entirely sold on the Steelers, and all they do is dink and dunk. This still blows me away. That Aaron Rodgers, who came into the week, by the way, completing 35% of his passes, or pass attempts rather, 35% of his pass attempts were behind the line of scrimmage. And he had completed only one pass beyond 10 yards down the field. They don't stretch the field. In this game, and a huge part of it was, Frank, the DK Metcalf long catch and run. Aaron Rodgers had 100 and, where I just had the number on my screen, Andrew, 162 of his 200 yards passing were yards after catch. 162 of 200 yards after catch. He is not stretching the field. I don't doubt that he can't do it. I think he probably can, but I don't know that this version of the Steelers, I guess that's my point, is sustainable.
I'm skeptical of it too, for the reasons you mentioned. I mean, Rodgers is not exactly lit it up, but he's made plays when he's had to, and that's what they wanted him to do. The defense, I need to see it more than once against Carson Wentz, who was holding the ball like it was his job. Like, I mean, dude, Carson, get rid of the ball. Like, taking sack after sack. It was hard to watch that. The Steelers defense did show up, though. It improved. And just, look, whatever we want to think about Aaron Rodgers as a player off the field, I don't care. This is a cool story that's being written. If he does go out and they win a division title in his last year, that's pretty cool. Like that for one of the legends of the game, one of the greatest quarterbacks.
Are you getting sentimental, Frank?
Maybe the most talented quarterback I've seen. For him to be doing what he's doing, I don't care. Like there are reasons to be skeptical of it all, but yet at the same time, this is a pretty cool story he's writing. And what
are you being warm and fuzzy, sentimental guy on Aaron Rodgers? Honestly, if you are, that's great. Good for you. I just don't know that there are many of those people anymore.
No,
maybe
not
Frank,
many. And
like you're the good-hearted soul here who doesn't want to be
Aaron
cynical
Jones,
about Aaron
if you guys saw him talking to Aaron Rodgers after the game, Aaron Jones was definitely seeing Rodgers had a moment after that game.
They did. It was a long moment, too. It was like one of those ones where you say what you're going to say, and then you hug it out, and then you're still there, and then you say something else, and then you hug it out. And then you think you're done, but then somebody has something else to add. It's one of those ones when you shake hands like 15 times because you think you're done and you keep going, but it's actually like 4 different hugs.
Okay, I'm glad you saw this also. You know when you watch a video on Twitter and then it finishes and you're multitasking, so another one auto plays, and sometimes they're just terrible. This one was not terrible, but that is how I ended up seeing Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones, and someone had set it to this like really emotional music, and I'm like, why am I getting in my feels? I don't have particularly emotional feelings about either of these men, but the music was really, it was getting me.
if we could honestly, guys, if we could separate like what we think of Aaron Rodgers for many, many reasons, right? He's a complicated fella. This is one of the cool American sports stories. If he can do this, if he takes the Steelers to a division title in an age when every other quarterback other than Tom Brady's been washed up, after people said he was washed up, after the Achilles, this is his, it's his third team in 4 seasons, the Jets debacle. He comes and takes the Steelers to a division title. I don't know. Like, yes, I get he's complicated. It would still be really darn cool. I want to see it. I think it'd just be a fun way for, again, one of the great players of all time to end his career.
I've said for a while that I think if Aaron Rodgers could remember, he's still got the arm strength. He's got probably the best football mind in terms of reading the defenses of active quarterbacks in the game, but no longer try and use the mobility that he had 10 years ago that he has less of now, that I think that would be the best version of Aaron Rodgers. What I will say is, I don't think right now he's doing that when he's never throwing downfield. But I think I would be more critical of him never throwing downfield if he was just holding the ball for a while, taking a ton of sacks. And he is taking some. But when I look at the next gen stats, like he has the fastest time to throw in the league. It's 2.52 seconds. No one's getting the ball out quicker than Aaron Rodgers. And so when you look at the numbers, and it's kind of strange that 72.3% of the yardage on his passes has come yards after the catch. This season, no one else has more than 60% of their yards coming through that way. And his three air yards per completion are the lowest in the league by a far number. So it's definitely an unusual way to play the game. But if the Steelers believe that getting the ball out quickly and letting their guys do things in space is effective, I don't think it should be the only thing they do, but I'm fine with them emphasizing that and doing it regularly. Sure. Again, this was a thing last year too. I remember after Aaron played the 49ers, I believe it was on a Thursday night. It was maybe it was a Monday night actually, but it was definitely like a primetime game. And I'm watching and he was throwing behind the sticks so many times that I just ended up making a list of like every throw he'd had yet that season and how many yards they went for, especially air yards. And it was like -3, -5, 2, etc. I don't think it's all he should do, but I do think that there is a little bit of a mind trick of just defenses don't have time to get settled if you're throwing the ball as quickly as he is.
Yeah, there's this thought, I think, from people that were looking at Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. Obviously, he could have gone anywhere. Minnesota, who they beat yesterday, one of the destinations he could have gone, that he's either going to do one of 3 things: throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage, throw a slant, or throw a back shoulder down the sideline. He's not just going to throw a go ball where he needs a guy to run underneath it. He's going to throw the safer back shoulder throw. That's the game that he's playing right now. That it wasn't necessarily sustainable winning football. But when you have DK Metcalf and no one that big, that size, should be able to run that fast, you can, I guess, make it work. And it's been working so far. I was talking to, you guys know Ben Lieber, the former linebacker, and he does Vikings sidelines now. I was talking to Ben today. He's over in London. This is for my Browns pod, and he has played against Aaron Rodgers. Now he covers him, and he has played against Brett Favre, and he said that they both have that ability, and he saw it yesterday from Rodgers to, even with all the Brian Flores exotic blitz packages being thrown at you, to be able to play the chess, to be able to figure it out, and then to, at the end, when he beats that blitz, give you that wry smile that maybe the cameras could pick up, and that he's toying with you. Again, can he toy with you to success in December and January, and the Steelers hope maybe February? I don't know, but right now, he's having fun, and he's winning. And the Vikings still had a chance at the end through all of that, but then Wentz threw a pick late, and then their offensive line is banged up, and now they got to London this afternoon, and now they get to get ready for the Browns, and the Steelers come home, and they get to take some time off. As for the Browns, let's get to them. So the Browns, I was there, lose in Detroit yesterday. This is much like the other games they have played this year. The defense keeps it close. The defense hangs around. This is potentially a one-score game of the third quarter, and then the dam breaks. Andre Schmidt missed a 56-yard field goal. This is not like week 1. I mean, it's a long 56-yard field goal, barely missed it. That would have made the game 20-13, and there's a game. Like every other game here that the Browns have played. They have I don't want to say Super Bowl defense. They have a playoff defense. They have the number 1 defense in the NFL. And they held the Lions' run game in check for most of the day. Jahmyr Gibbs certainly made his plays and scored his touchdown, and Amon-Ra scored 2 as well. But the offense has done nothing. There's no other way to say it. They had an 88-yard drive to open the game. They marched down the field, and Quinton Judkins punched it in. And then after that, the next drive, miscommunication, Flacco, bad pick. He took the blame. Some people thought it could have been Cedric Tillman's fault. Flacco threw a deep ball. Nobody was there but Kirby Joseph. Flacco took the blame. Being a good leader, maybe it is his fault. Who knows? But earlier today, guys, Kevin Stefanski, when asked multiple times during his Monday press availability, and just so you know, the Monday meeting is done on Zoom. So everyone is at home, and the Monday meeting is done on Zoom, was asked multiple times if Joe Flacco is still a starting quarterback. Browns leave for London on Wednesday to play the Vikings, and Brian Flores in his exotic blitz packages. And all three times he gave the standard answer that I respect the question, but it's not just the quarterback, and we've all got to get better. And at one point, I believe it was Scott Petrak, followed with, Kevin, is he starting or not? And he said, guys, I respect the question, and he gave the same answer. So there is a thought, Jori, then maybe he will, as we sit here Monday evening, change quarterbacks and go Dillon Gabriel.
I have a lot of challenges with that, not in terms of the likelihood of it happening, in terms of the wisdom of making this change now. I think that if you are going to have a rookie start, remember, think about, we were just talking about Jaxson Dart starting against an undefeated team. You're going to have Dillon Gabriel, who's not a first-round pick, by the way, third-round pick, start abroad in a foreign situation. All of the game prep or any types of ways he'd been trying to simulate his routine are going to get thrown out the window because this is an international game. And oh, by the way, he's playing Brian Flores' defense, who confuses even the most veteran of quarterbacks. I just think that is a tough ask for any quarterback, and all the more so a quarterback who'd be playing down multiple tackles relative to what the Browns thought they'd have going into the season. On the flip side of that, I do think, just as we saw Brian Daboll start to hesitate about whether Russell Wilson would be starting last Monday, and by Wednesday there was a change that wasn't that surprising, once you start to question whether your quarterback is, and I would not say that Kevin Stefanski questioned it quite as strongly, he more evaded the question, but once you're struggling to say that, I think there is doubt planted. I think these seeds of doubt are problematic for the team because the team's no longer going to trust the quarterback as much and trust that that quarterback who had been starting is the best option for the team. And you could end up with a locker room issue if you don't make the change. So while I would wait another game to start Dillon Gabriel, if that's where the Browns are headed, which it seems to be, it doesn't seem like Kevin Stefanski is of that. And if they're not making a change, why isn't he just saying that Joe's doing it? Is this a, oh, well, we don't want to let Brian Flores know? Like, that would be the only saving grace I could think of here, is if they're just trying to make it a competitive advantage of, hey, we're not going to tell you which quarterback to prepare for. And it was on this very show that we questioned when Aaron Glenn ruled out Justin Fields on Wednesday for that reason.
Right. It's a good point.
Yeah,
Frank?
I think that the whole, like, trying to find the exact right spot for rookie quarterback can be a little overstated because these are all professional defenses. It's really hard to find that sweet spot. Like, oh, if we wait till this week, you're going to be in a tough situation as a rookie quarterback. But this one, like you said, Jori, is very difficult. Like, it's more difficult than usual when you have a Brian Flores defense abroad in London for your first game. Even if you waited, let's say you give Flacco another game. Well, you come home and you play a rested Steelers defense in Pittsburgh right after that. I look at week 7. They played home. They played the Dolphins, whose defense isn't really good. I say professional defense. Maybe the Dolphins don't apply. I don't know. But that just seems like, hey, let's give Flacco the next 2 games, see what happens. We'll give Dillon Gabriel a kind of the softest landing spot we can in week 7. This is one of the rare examples where I'll actually entertain this notion. But I also understand that the Browns are getting kind of antsy. Look, we sit back, fans sit back. We look at the big picture and we say, oh, they should be, they're not going anywhere. They should try this player. They should try that player. NFL teams always think they can win. And
correct.
The Browns are probably sitting
still September.
There. Right. And the Browns are probably sitting there at 1-3, like you said, Andrew, saying, we have a playoff defense. This defense is unbelievable. Are we just going to put a suboptimal quarterback out there for the next 2 games, regardless of who the opponent is? If Dillon Gabriel gives us his best chance to win, we got to do that now, and maybe we can get back to 3-3. Teams aren't thinking like, well, we stink anyway. Let's wait to get Dillon Gabriel out there. So this is a very tough decision. And also when you do it, it's probably you're not going to go back from it. Like, right? Like once the change is made, Dillon Gabriel plays until whenever, and then we can talk about the guy behind him when eventually, inevitably, we'll talk about him. But yeah, I do think there's a difficult situation just because it's such a tough assignment to be facing the Vikings in London for your first.
Let me give you a little more context here. They gave up 17 points off turnovers yesterday. Okay, 17. And there's also a kick return, a punt return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
So you look at the defensive numbers through that lens, they played winning football. I mean, they played a very, very good game. But collectively, this team, and they've yet to score a defensive touchdown, collectively, this team has scored 53 points in 4 games. And Flacco leads the league with 160 passing attempts. That is not a winning formula. They won against the Packers because of 4 minutes of complimentary football at the end of the game. Well, more than 4 minutes, but those 4 minutes of magic came together. Offense, defense, and special teams. The defense did it for basically the entire game yesterday, and the offense did not, save for the first drive. And then you give up the punt return. That was just an utter backbreaker. If you look at the Vikings offensive line and they lose Brian O'Neill and they lose Ryan Kelly, and they're already banged up, obviously, on that O-line. You look at that Vikings O-line, you say the Browns D-line is going to feast in London against that Vikings O-line. But you got to be able to score points. I don't know that Dillon Gabriel is the right guy. I'm sorry, I don't know if the moment is the right time. I'm with you, Jori, for Dillon Gabriel. But I'm telling you, I think there is a chance. But tackle here, as you said, Frank, or maybe you did, Jori, I'm sorry, they're not getting good play at either tackle spot. You hope Jack Conklin comes back, and they made the trade today for Cam Robinson, who is on his 4th team now. But Cam Robinson is at least a veteran with a lot of starting experience, and some people in Minnesota will tell you the last year he really did help them down the stretch after they got him at the deadline in 2024 from Jacksonville when Darisaw got hurt. So Cam Robinson, hopefully he has a passport and he can make it over to London, and that both teams announced that trade late this afternoon. Browns of Vikings at Tottenham, week number 5. We are rolling on here on Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Coming up next, Andrew, I'm losing my track on all these stinking windows on my laptop. Coming up next, I guarantee you more football fun. Frank and Jori on Inside Coverage. Welcome back to Inside Coverage. Andrew Siciliano, Jori Epstein, and Frank Schwab. We spoke earlier of Jaxson Dart and his swag and his glasses and his chain and his TikTok dance and the jersey sales. I think Cam Ward also has swag. I mean, he has that dog mentality, which is corny and cliched, but we've talked about it all through training camp in the early part of the season. They love him despite the fact that they are 0-4 and the offense is quite inept, to be honest with you. And Brian Callahan is getting contentious and getting feisty there with Paul Kaharski, among others, both on the podium on a Monday and on a Sunday. But Cam Ward, and here's where I'm bringing you guys back to Jaxson Dart, also has his own Gen Z swag at quarterback. And I don't know that I had ever heard a quarterback describe an offense like Cam Ward did yesterday.
I mean, if we keeping the buck right now, so we 0-4. We have, this point, we got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our games, and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in, especially myself on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams to all 3 faces. We have to play together. We have not played together this year yet, and that's just something that, we want to preach about it every day. Every day we got to do better, and we're doing that, but it has to show up on Sundays. It hasn't showed up yet, but it got to show up next week.
Okay, we were doing this on our text chain earlier this afternoon. Can you imagine, Jori, like Matthew Stafford getting to the podium and saying, "We ass"? Like, how about Sam? How about Joe Flacco? We ass. How about Tua? Guys.
Maybe you could say Tua doing it. I want to see Kirk Cousins do it. Kirk is the one. I want to see Kirk.
Yes, that's all the oldest guys in the league. It is definitely funny. I'll also admit that when I was watching that before the show to prep, I guess I must have been on, like the tweet was on one of my back screens, and then I got on to record with you guys. We hadn't yet pressed play, and I was hearing this noise in the background. I'm like, oh, it's one of our producers saying pass, 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 pass. And no, it was that tweet just playing on autoplay in the background of my computer, and it took me a minute to finish. So yes, an amusing moment. I actually think his teammates probably find it refreshing, though. I actually think it probably speaks to them.
Do you think so,
because
Jori,
I think there are times. I do,
wonder what you thought
because
about
I think I've been in locker rooms where the quarterback gets so into the business mentality. And I feel for them. Sometimes they're the face of the franchise. And as we all know, the head coach and quarterback take a lot more credit and blame no matter what happens. And so they kind of get into, oh, I'm just going to stay even keeled. I think your teammates want to see that you are feeling this, that you recognize that the problem is there, that you want to fix it. And I do think that Cam Ward was authentically showing everyone, not just inside the locker room, that he wants this fixed. I would also say that everyone is going to be a little bit different, or almost everyone, I should say, after we just watched that clip, on a podium versus in the locker room. That's been one of our biggest gripes as reporters when they try and get reporters out of the locker room, is that no one is going to have the same demeanor and authenticity at a podium, because it just kind of makes you feel like you're in a business-like setting. The fact that Cam Ward can be that authentic at the podium, I give him a lot of credit for, and I do think probably speaks to the organization.
The only reason I really questioned it is because this is 4 games into his career, and usually rookie quarterbacks wouldn't say anything like that. Like if Patrick Mahomes, not that he would, or Lamar, or whoever, like has been around for a while, has some skins on the wall, all that kind of stuff. If they said it, I think that would resonate within the locker. I was shocked to hear a rookie quarterback say that after his first month, but I liked it. I liked
Really?
that Cam Ward. I like what part did you not
the
agree?
same guy that shoved Jeffrey Simmons in the back? I mean, I think he has like established himself as, I'm the
Right.
dog, I'm the leader here.
Yeah.
I kind of loved it.
I did. I loved it. I loved it too. I just didn't know. Because rookies don't generally do this. They don't shove Jeffrey Simmons in the back. They're there to be, even, first pick overall is kind of just there, your rookie, or to be blend into the background a little bit. The veterans will handle this. But Cam Ward has a fire about him that I like, a competitiveness about him I like. Pretty clearly, I've been saying that I think the coaching staff is a problem. I think that they made the wrong decision to bring that coaching staff back. They're not even like playing Calvin Ridley anymore. Tyler Lockett's playing 95% of their snaps. Like, I just think it's so mismanaged in Tennessee that they're wasting Cam Ward's rookie year, and you can see the frustration coming out. And I don't think people are really blaming Cam Ward for all this. I think he's played pretty well under the circumstances. Yeah, they didn't score yesterday, but I think he's shown the talent that made him the first pick. And I like seeing the fire. I like seeing him shaking things up and saying, this is basically saying in a very colorful way, this is unacceptable. This is ridiculous for because it is. The Titans are a ridiculous, unserious football team.
Yeah, I'm
and
curious.
I also think that
Go ahead, Jori. Sorry.
I also think that Brian Callahan isn't going to say this, and that's fair. One, the head coach doesn't usually talk about like that and with that kind of language the same way that the quarterback doesn't, but also Brian Callahan's job is on the line more than Cam Ward's job is going to be on the line. And so if Cam Ward is trying to not say this to Brian Callahan, but he's trying to just make people know that, hey, regardless of what happens to the coach, and I'm not saying he wants Callahan out, but just regardless of what happens, I know that this is not okay, and that we are going to have to figure out with this coaching staff or another, with this era of Titans football, or next season, or halfway through the season, if they got another play caller, we are going to have to figure out something besides this, because I recognize when he says a quarter of the season is gone, at first I thought he meant like, well, he's like, we've lost a quarter of our games. I'm like, what do you mean you've lost all your games? And I'm like, no, he means they've lost a quarter of the season.
Yeah.
And the fact that that is so present on his mind, I actually think is a great sign.
Yeah, I agree. And the Callahan thing is hard to separate. Let's look, we've talked about it a couple of times before. The average NFL fan probably isn't paying attention to the fact that Brian Callahan is having contentious press conferences, or that Cam Ward is saying this, or that there is really a thought that Brian Callahan could be gone any minute now. I mean, there was some question, would he do his Monday press conference? I don't mean like, the Titans were vague with what time his presser was, but just speculation around the league. Wow, is he going to be on the podium at 1 o'clock today? I think a lot of what Cam Ward said was meant for the locker room. Like, hey, we need to take accountability. We as players need to do better. We need to take it upon ourselves, our shoulders, put it on our shoulders to actually go out there and win. But it is hard to separate the dynamic, as you both said, of the coach being on the hot seat and the rookie quarterback that everyone is pining to see. Like, we will want to see great play from him, and oh my God, don't root him. The rookie quarterback is saying this bleep is unacceptable. And when does that divide actually happen? And not saying between coach and quarterback, but when does ownership go, wait a minute, like this doesn't work? They probably already know that this doesn't work, but when they look at the messaging and say this actually looks bad, worse than the record, and the record is 0-4, and that we need to do something. But I've said it before, like who on that staff are you going to hand it to? Denard Wilson is a guy that gets head coaching interviews. He could be that guy. right? Maybe he's on the defensive side of a ball, however. So if you're trying to save the rookie quarterback and you've already skipped over your offensive coordinator when you give up play calling as the head coach, where do you go for the interim job? You're not going to hire someone midseason who's going to have the job full time. That's not how this works. Where do you go? That to me is the biggest question. All right, let's get to a team that is undefeated.
That to me,
a team that go ahead.
I actually want to say, Andrew, that to me is actually the easy question because they have a special teams coach who has been an interim head coach before in John Fossil. And John Fossil is the guy to fire up the team. I mean, I worked with John for a long time in Dallas. He's got that energy. And I can tell you that Tennessee did not only want him for the way that he was conducting the kickers and special teams, they knew on that staff that they needed a level of juice that John Fossil could bring. So while I think really highly of Denard Wilson too, I will tell you that is not the question. To me, the question is, when are you going to do this? And I think we have to keep in mind the same way that Brian Daboll didn't pick Daniel Jones. So that was a mismatch of eras with quarterback and head coach. Brian Callahan was here before Mike Borgonzi, before the new head coach, before a lot of that leadership. And so that always makes you more susceptible to being kicked out the door.
Yeah, and it's a great point about Bones. I love the guy. He's been an interim head coach before. I would love to see him get another shot here. I don't know how that helps Cam Ward's development. And if you get rid of this offensive staff and hand it to Bones, which I'd be happy with, you probably almost have to hit reset on his development and call it a wasted season. But they're not there yet. All right. The Eagles, guys, 4-0. Frank, you're writing about them on winners and losers on Yahoo right now. They played, it was kind of the opposite of last week, in which they were awful in the first half, turned it on to the second half. They played a great second half and then hung on for dear life. Rather, they played a great first half in Tampa and then hung on for dear life to hold on and beat the Bucs.
They didn't complete a pass in the second half. Like, I was like, I'm watching
Which is exactly
Eagles.
what happened in the first half last week against the
right?
Rams.
Like, and you got AJ Brown is now tweeting about, like, basically subtweeting everybody and being like, I'm not happy. I'm peace out. Like, what are we doing here? This is such a weird team to me right now because all 4 games you look and you say they're not really playing that well. They're playing well enough to win. But you even go back to week 1 when kind of messing around with the Cowboys for a long time. And now we find out that the Cowboys have one of the worst defenses we've ever seen. They didn't really take advantage of that. They didn't play great against the Chiefs, but got by. They, like you said, the Rams absolutely dominated them for 2.5 quarters, but they somehow pull out a win. This game, they're barely hanging on at the end against a banged up Bucs team. I don't know what to make of the Eagles. Like, they're 4-0. They're one of 2 undefeated teams. So it's not easy to get to 4-0. They're the Super Bowl champs. They have this great roster. They have all these stars, but yet we have not seen them play anywhere close to 4 good quarters yet in a game. I just don't know what to do with them. I'm just really baffled by what the Eagles are right now, understanding they're still very, very good. They're still very talented. They still have a championship pedigree, and they're probably going to get better like they did after September last year.
Frank, I just want to know what about the following made you think that AJ Brown was subtweeting. For people who didn't see this tweet, it was a quote, "If you're not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and be on your way." Why can't the man just tweet out quotes he likes? He's an inspirational quote. Have you not seen the books he's reading on the sidelines?
Yeah.
So this is from the book of Mark, okay? So he went New Testament there. I did the Google.
He's a reader, so
he's
we know
tweeting Bible quotes, which one is free to do, but it seemingly had a message. If you're not going to throw me the ball, then I could just leave quietly. Don't worry about me. I'll go home. Please get rid of me. So much so that Nick Sirianni today, Frank, when he opened up his day after press conference, and again, they won. They beat the team that always knocks them out of the playoffs when they're not going to the Super Bowl. They won on the road against a good team. The opening question to Nick Sirianni was, Nick, are you of the belief, is it your understanding, rather, that A.J. Brown still wants to be here? That was the first question.
Philly. I love Philly so much. Philly, like the world is crumbling when they're 4-0. Like, there's always going to be something. I love the Philly market and the Philly fans so much. They're great. They're so passionate. And yes, AJ knows what he's doing. He's a really, really smart dude, and he is just stoking that fire, being as passive aggressive as he can. Just this random Bible verse doesn't mean anything. No, not after a game where I had 2 catches for 11 yards and really was an afterthought in the offense. I'm just going to tweet this out. To shrug your shoulders and move move along your way. Like, unbelievable. Philly gives us so much to talk about. The Eagles do. I love them. I love it. But just football-wise, I really don't know what to make of anything I see out of Philly right now because they have 3 quality wins. They're 4-0, but they haven't played anywhere close to really good football yet. It's crazy.
My favorite quote from an Eagles guy not that long ago, or an Eagles staffer, I should say, is when they said, Philly, where winning just isn't good enough, because that's how everyone feels in Philly.
Right.
That even when you win, there's just so much discontent. I agree with you guys that A.J. Brown knows exactly what he's doing, that he's going to be afraid or not going to be afraid to speak up. I think what's interesting to me is that when they got Saquon Barkley and they signed him, didn't they know something like this was going to happen? Didn't they know that there were going to be more mouths to feed than they were able to feed? And maybe they were okay with that because Nick Sirianni's the culture guy, and eventually if you win enough, it fixes it all. Like, I don't know that A.J. Brown actually wants off. I think he wants to make a show of it until he gets his targets. But realistically, with the caliber of talent that Howie Roseman has assembled, someone is always going to be shorter on targets than they would be on the average team because there are just too many weapons. And I think most people would call that champagne problems.
Yeah, I agree. They're not running the ball that well, though. I mean, as creatively as at least Saquon's numbers aren't there. There's a difference between Saquon and the rest of the team collectively here. But as creative as they are in their run game and their play calling, they're as vanilla. They're just as vanilla with their pass game. And A.J. Brown, it's the same stuff. It's a slant, it's a hitch, it's a comeback. There's no creativity in that passing game for A.J. Brown, and that is part, no doubt, of his issues. Last week, though, they got him the ball in the second half, and he played bully ball. That was how he was great in Tennessee. Derrick Henry, you either run Derrick Henry or play fake and throw a slant to AJ, and he would bully you down the field. They don't go to that well very often. And whether it's Kevin Petullo calling plays or whether it's Nick Sirianni calling plays, but I'm with you. It's winning isn't enough. You need to win with style. Yet, what is it, Frank? Is it 20 out of 21 that they've won now?
A full calendar year, they've lost one game. In that game, Jalen Hurts knocked out in the first quarter, and it still took the Commanders until 7 seconds left to beat them. In the games that Jalen Hurts has started and finished, he's 20 out of his last 20. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's just what a streak he's on.
Even despite saying on the show last week that the Eagles had gone 24-27, when I read the 20-1 stat in Frank's story this morning, I was like, no, like, what is this? And then it was true from when they lost to the Buccaneers early last season.
Yeah, and again, they beat a good team. They beat, Baker's the darling again. Baker's in the MVP conversation. They won on the road against the team that knocks them out when they don't go to the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, and we said this Friday, just remember, people, if you go back to when Jalen Hurts first took over, they do one of two things: go to the Super Bowl or lose to the Buccaneers in the playoffs. Well, they exorcised one of those Buccaneer demons yesterday. And again, people still are not happy. But we're happy that you watched the show and listened to the show. So there's that. That's going to do it. Our Monday night edition after week 4 of Inside Coverage, the How and the Why. We're here every Monday through Thursday through the NFL season. Frank, Jori, it's been fun. Everyone, thanks for listening and watching. We are back tomorrow. My name is Andrew. So long, everybody.